And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And it's finally here. Today we're talking about the Demon Slayer Mugen Train movie. We're talking about our review of it, loose discussion, nothing too formal, but up front we will tell you there will absolutely be spoilers. I feel like we're some of the last people to see this movie anyway, so if you're listening, you've probably seen it, but just, be warned, we're going to talk about the whole plot of the movie, probably some of our favorite moments and all of that. We're both coming pretty fresh off of a watch. So, yeah, brace yourself and enjoy. Hey, Grant.
Hey.
I think we both potentially had some issues starting to, just to actually watch the movie. So, what did you run into?
So,
maybe I'll just say off the top for context for anybody listening, we're in North America. It's like one of the last places to get the movie, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so it was streaming directly on Funimation, and then it was also available for rent on Google Play and stuff like that. So
therein lied the problem. That was the special word there. It was Funimation really they really got me to my last nerve from the past couple of days.
Man.
And it's not fair because I was doing some reading online. I believe Funimation came out and was like, "Hey, we're working on this. This is a whole new platform."
Really?
I guess what it was before was really not good, and this is actually a huge improvement. So I think there's just the coinciding release of Mugen Train, and then also them updating their platform. I think it was just anyways. So
interesting.
So that was the thing. You and I both don't subscribe to Funimation, so I'm assuming that I think that's what you did as well. So I got everything set up. Would not let me add my credit card on.
Oh, really?
On mobile.
So you couldn't even just your problem was just getting the subscription.
No,
going?
Dave. There's some hoops I had to jump through. So it wouldn't go through on mobile. I'm like, that's weird. I go to the website. Same thing. Was just kind of kicking me out, saying you can't qualify for this because you've already used a 2-week free trial at some point. And so I was okay, that's fine.
I was on
charge
the trial.
Me. That was the thing. It was charge me.
Let me pay.
I want to watch it, and it just wouldn't go through. I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, all right, I'll try the PlayStation app.
Mm-hmm.
So I download that. Lo and behold, goes through. And I'm like, okay, we're cooking with gas here now. Let's get going. So I knew people were having problems. I had read online people were having problems, getting the stream started.
Yeah, I had
So first time I go, nothing, no audio, nothing. It's just a still image of Nezuko.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's fucking weird. And cancel out, wouldn't do anything, da-da-da. So I'm like, fuck, okay.
A lot of futzing around with that, eh?
Futzing around with that. And I'm like, okay, we're not watching it till for another hour anyways. Maybe we'll just let it sit. It'll figure itself out. Doesn't. Mm-hmm. Close the app out, go back in. And then it starts playing. Still the still image, but all the audio is playing in the background. And it would not load through, so I closed the app.
Is there anything more frustrating than this kind of shit?
Oh, it's crazy. It's not like we're under a timeline. Obviously, you and I have been really busy lately. We've been trying to iron out a date so where we could talk and then also watch the movie. So we're not. It was just this weird little juggling act. Anyways, long story short, or long story long, finally get it going, and then app crashes, and I'm like, oh
yeah.
It starts playing. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go buy it because you can't rent it. You have to buy it outright, which is whatever. It's $15, on whatever stores.
Yep, Google Play, iTunes, whatever.
As I'm about to go for the purchase, I had the app open and it kicked in playing. I was like, all right, let's go. And I just let it do its thing. I was like, all it needed to be was threatened to lose or money go elsewhere. That's all it needed.
So you watched it today?
Well, it started last night. Fell asleep.
Nice.
And the app was kind of kicking up. It was pausing and stuttering, and I was like, "Fuck, okay, I'm getting sleepy anyways." And then I more or less rewatched it from the beginning today.
Yeah.
Went back 20 minutes from where I last left it, but it was. I have not had, and I'm not trying to compare Crunchyroll and Funimation at all. I don't think that's necessarily in this argument. But legitimately, the only time I've had issues on Crunchyroll is Attack on Titan, night or drop of an episode on Crunchyroll, where it just crashes everything and no one can watch it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's, but
when the traffic is so high. I won't harp on this too long because I had most of the issues that you had. I didn't have issues getting the trial or the subscription going. It was just like super janky. Like I would select the actual the poster art for the movie, like click on the tile to pull up the movie, and it would just bring me to a blank page, and I would with nothing but a back arrow, and then I realized it was taking like 30 to 40 plus seconds just to load the next page. So I was like, my like impatientness as a user, not wanting to wait 40 seconds, was like putting me in like a loop.
Sure.
And then like, you know, I tend to be maybe a little extra critical of this kind of stuff because in like my profession, I'm in the industry of streaming video. So I'm just sitting there being like, how did they not anticipate? Like they've had months and months and months to be ready for this. And like it was announced months ago that there would be, you know, that it would be exclusive. And like, it's not even...
I don't think so. I think it was actually, like, they probably knew behind the scenes, but it wasn't made public till I think about like 2-3 weeks ago.
I mean, but even then, like, just selecting a regular show had the same problem. So I was like,
no, yeah,
what is this? Like, the whole app was just like such crap. And then like I ended up doing something similar where the mobile app was so bad because I figured I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try doing the mobile app and I'll try casting it. But that was like just complete non-starter. And then so I got it on like a couple of different TV applications. And eventually like the Roku TV app was solid-ish. That was probably ironically the best experience. But it was tough. Once I got going though, it was like good. Like there was no, you know, I didn't have any buffering issues or anything like that.
Well, when I went to go resume it this afternoon, like when I got home from work, same thing. I was like, fuck. Like, am I literally going to go through like 30 minutes of jumping through hoops again?
Man.
But thankfully, you know, honestly, it was longer than 40 seconds. I think it took about 2 minutes. I just let it sit there. I went to the kitchen and I heard it playing and I just like ripped back into the living room. Like, all right, where do we leave off? I didn't want to fast forward. I didn't want to do anything. I just like, okay, this is where we're starting. Like,
it's crazy because you don't think of these applications when they're good, right? You only think of them when they're bad.
Yeah.
So like when you have like a seamless experience with like whatever streaming service that you use that you just works for you, you don't think about how good that is. You only think about it when you run into roadblocks.
Absolutely.
And like when it's something like highly anticipated like this, you really feel it. So anyway, so I ended up watching it Saturday night. You watched it, you know, yesterday and today. What is your knee-jerk reaction? How do you feel?
Fucking A, man. Like, you know, I was thinking how I wanted to word it because it's going to sound odd. Like, it felt like the show.
Yeah,
and
100%.
I think that's important because, again, I haven't seen a lot of anime movies. Like, you know, and like you and I have both been very forward. Like, we've been watching anime for a long time, but like our scope hasn't been as big as, you know, some fans are, and like we're working on that. So any stuff I've watched is either like a singular film or it's just non-canon. You know, the My Hero movies or like Ghost in the Shell, and I think I've watched the odd Gundam movie here and there.
Yeah, I can think of one other film I've seen that is like canon to a television show, and it's Dragon Ball Super Broly, and it took them like 20 plus years to do a canon movie.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. So, like, you know, like, everything you can always... That stuff I've seen, even, like, specifically the My Hero one, like, it feels... It's the show, but it's very singular. It feels out of the scope. This was the natural progression from one to the other. You know, like, I felt like this is just an extended episode of the show, and I thought that was perfect. You know,
I totally agree. It felt as though they were, like... They looked at like just like how they were framing their arcs, and they were like, now this arc would be a good movie specifically, and maybe it would be like it would just be a weird thing to cram into season 2. And they were like, we can do this great in 2 hours.
I was watching, like, as I was watching it, all I could think about is like, and that's where they would cut it there, and this is where they would cut it there, and I was like, this wouldn't work. This is too... You know, it's a train ride. Like, it's meant to take place in like a 2-hour span. It's oddly perfect that this is the movie, you know?
Yeah, it is. It would almost be like you would want to binge all of these episodes in a row if it was on a streaming service as episodes. You know what I mean? Like, it would definitely not flow with a week-long break.
It would absolutely drag.
It would 100% drag. You'd be like, when are we getting off this train?
Yeah.
Like, we've been on this train for, it would be like, 6 to 8 weeks worth of episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, movie was the right decision. I remember saying to you, I don't think this was back in the podcast days, but being almost like kind of having my doubts about the jumping to a movie, because it was like Demon Slayer season 1 was such a huge hit.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, but now you're going to delay your whole production schedule to like cash in on a movie. And like nothing had been like, there was no like key art or trailers out yet. Like, and there wasn't really a great blueprint for an anime movie that's canon.
This is the blueprint. This is the watershed moment for, right? I think, going forward. I think, and we've talked about this on the main show. Like, this is, like Jujutsu Kaisen's the next show to be doing this. They're setting up a canon prequel movie, and I think that's good if it breaks up. That it kind of separates seasons a little more, and it kind of. I was like 2 minutes into this thing. I was like, "Fuck! I got to do a rewatch stat of season 1. Like, this is."
Oh my god!
And it's like the show had such. It gripped you and I. That Demon Slayer is the reason we're doing this show.
Probably,
it's we had been talking about it for years, but we both saw that we're talking back and forth, and we're like, well, let's just do it. Like, let's do our show. And fuck, man, this show.
Solid.
It's stunning. I forgot how beautiful it looked. I forgot how just
comedy.
The comedy, the cast of characters, fucking Inosuke. How do you say that? He's got it. It's hard to roll off the tongue for him, but holy fuck, that dude kills me. Like
he had some really really great moments in this.
And Zenitsu too.
Movie.
I know he's not like as much of a fan favorite because he's a little loud and obnoxious.
Mostly for me. But when he perfectly
shows
used.
up, oh, absolutely, I love it. Like, I genuinely love this movie. It was nice too. It was kind of a treat, like we get to enjoy the show, but that's the thing. We get those non-canon movies for stuff, and it's all insane art style and art direction and animation, and then it's like, but it doesn't really.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing.
But this does. It's like this is kind of like the Holy Grail a little bit. This is a big deal for a series, and I think shows are going to continue to do this. I think more and more people are going to pick this up.
This is the way.
This is the way for sure.
See what I did there? I think maybe we should start and just sort of say we'll try and keep it along like the order of the plot line in the movie, but I don't really care. But I will say that I thought they had a really, really strong opening. Here's a technical question that I didn't think of until I was like flipping through scrolling through the movie again today. So, there's the whole introduction. We meet Rengoku on the train. There's like some fun comedy. I did enjoy that little moment of like Tangero being like, so about this like Hinokami Kagura breathing thing. He's like, not a clue.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got a black sword? How unfortunate. Like they set him up really good.
Yeah.
But speaking of his setup, here's my question. He decimates 2 demons, right?
Yeah.
And they all talk about how cool he looks. And like brilliant animation. We can talk about that in detail in a moment if you want. But my question is, that happens immediately after their tickets are punched. And then it cuts abruptly to them sleeping. Like, did they dream of him killing those 2 demons? Or did that happen and then they all sat back down and promptly fell asleep?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Or you know what I mean? Like, did they get up, kill some demons? They're like, all right, that was fun.
Well, because what's his name? Is it Enmu? Is the lower
the main
one.
demon, yeah.
So he
or
makes
the Mugen demon, yeah.
So he makes a mention of the second your tickets were punched, my blood activated. But I think he clearly had the choice of when it kicked in.
Right.
Is my guess. That would be my only, like, that's my headcanon of it, I guess. If maybe they get a little more detail, but
it was just a weird cut when I looked back at it.
I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, I don't know. It may not matter, but I was always like, because
I don't think it does. But
then they end up having separate dreams. So like maybe it would be weird for them all to dream collectively. It would sort of mess up the whole thing.
Those dreams were so fucking good.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything in this realm you want to talk about first. I loved the Rengoku like intro with the comedy and then like the badassery.
Yeah, him immediately getting to work and him like Inosuke. I don't know.
Inosuke, yeah.
Inosuke he jumps right in and it's just immediately like sat down on a bench.
Yeah.
You know, and he kind of breaks the rule of like, no, like I'm going for it. Like, don't rescue first, attack first. And that's the thing too. I will say, like, Rengoku, at the end of last season when they kind of introduced like all the, is it the Hisharis or
Hashira.
Hashira, you know, all the different ranks, all the like the big casting, like the lore dump of characters at the end of the first season. You know, they clearly set up this movie, right, with him and all that. Like, they kind of, I think it was known that he was going to be in this movie.
He got just a touch more screen time than everybody else.
And I remember hating it. I was like, I don't get this. I don't like this at all.
I know.
I don't like the look. I'm not like.
Well, he's really out there.
It's not even that he's out there. It's the Endeavor thing. I think flames like are just like so overused and kind of tacky.
Oh God.
And the aesthetic of like his cape is also fire too. I was like, come on.
The cape. I totally agree on the cape. It is a bit much.
You know, so like, and that's what we had, and then we've had nothing for like what, almost 2 years now until we've watched this movie, and like I'm completely like, you know, like
eating it up.
It's like, okay, this guy is awesome, because we had no real time with him. Like, you know, they kind of show you like this goofy looking character, don't get much, and then you got to wait all this time. But I agree, very dope, very funny, and just this, I didn't understand the staring straight thing, but and after a while, I was just like, all right, dude's got eyes wide open. That's just his thing. Like, I love how they kept calling him Goggles.
Yeah, that was good. I like so we're moving right along. I think I loved the dreams. You know,
all of them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like, at one point, I was like, "Okay, let's get back to like the main plot." But the pacing of this movie, like we talked about, how it would make it's a better movie than it would be episodes. But the pacing and how they decide to pick up and slow down, and they keep like kind of dropping it.
Yeah.
Like they go in and out of gear. Because if we just did 30 to 40 straight minutes of everybody in dream sequences, I probably wouldn't, like, it might be a little off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they keep flitting back to reality.
Yeah.
In between everything.
It's like Inception. It reminded me of Inception.
Dude,
like,
there is a lot of Inception stuff in here. A lot.
You see the people that are still awake and the people that are sleeping, and you're trying to like pick what's true and what's not. And it wasn't obnoxious and it wasn't in your face. It was very well done. Like, that was, you know, Inception. It was kind of going down on itself in moments. This was very grounded. Like, they kind of kept the dreams like almost a 1-to-1.
Like, kind of like the first pillar of Inception, but they didn't go like
deeper.
Yeah,
they didn't go
we don't have to go
deep.
deeper.
Yeah, so I really like that. It was, yeah,
one of the greatest moments that is kind of Inception-like is Nezuko getting frustrated and like headbutting him, and then using like her demon art, and he catches fire in his real dream, or in the dream.
Yeah.
So much of Tangero's dreams were my complete favorite of the whole movie. Like, there's the obvious, like, him meeting his family and like losing it moment.
The emotional stuff was very, very well handled, and it's good. It was good to see. I really didn't want Tangero to backslide, and he didn't. Like, he was in it, you know, because he was clearly, like, that was the thing. Like, he thought this was real life. He wasn't like backsliding on his demeanor. He wasn't kind of getting confused on it. Like, when he knew what was going on, he was himself. He was true to himself, and he knew, like, no, my family. Like, I guess this is jumping ahead a little bit, but he says you know, my family wouldn't say this. You know, I guess we're talking the realm of dreams. Like, when he was in the dreams, and fuck, man, like, he has some baller anime, like, Hall of Fame moments in this movie. Like,
he does, and like, you can tell, like, one of the things they seem to put a lot of emphasis on Tangero, and they do that with a lot of protagonists in shonen, is you want to get the vibe that your main character is just somehow good, right? Like, good natured. And I don't know, you know, obviously, like, we're coming right off the movie, but it's hard to think of someone that has been nailed so well in this way other than Tangero. Like, you know, there's like Avatar Aang and Goku and all these people that I can think of.
I would put Midoriya in there.
Midoriya, Itadori, even. Like, there's lots of really fun shonen characters like that. But, you know, the way they handle his subconscious and the way it's animated, especially because there's a big juxtaposition when they show you exactly what Rengoku's looks like just moments before. That was killer. And you know, like, they've nailed, when you think about it that way, they nailed that stuff about Tangero very early on in season 1. You know, like, when he kills demons, the whole like holding their hand as they go thing.
Yeah.
It's like that's like a very specific thing they're going for that you just don't see.
No.
In a lot of other shows, but I feel like they pay a lot of tribute to that and like who his character is in this show or in this movie without it feeling forced.
Well, it's a nice thing. It feels, it's like we said, like it's just another episode of the show, you know, like they don't have, pardon me. Sorry about that, but like, you know, and that's the other thing too I kind of want to jump into is the details. They have this 2-hour time span where they can throw little extra things in there that you could see in a show, like a little moment. Like there's the line of when Enmu tells like the 4 passengers who like have to tie up to like the 4 characters.
Didn't see that coming.
And also like just a little detail of like, and remember, don't touch them. You know, it was like that.
Yes.
In the show, there's a chance that could have just not been said and just blow right into like go tie them up or start the ritual or something like that.
They took time for the detail.
They took time for the detail, and it's like, I love it. Like
same as when Tangero takes time for the detail. He goes, I have a feeling if I cut the ropes with my sword.
See, didn't like that. That's the opposite. That was like going to, and there's a couple moments with Enmu where like the second phase of the boss fight where he was like, oh, I'm ecstatic, like I'm gonna tell you what's happening to you. It's like, well, we would have pieced that together. Like obviously, like you're not dead, you're somewhere else in the train, you know. There was little stuff like that where the detail was perfectly laid and it seemed natural, and then other parts where I felt it was a little forced, and it was like, we're smart, like we're viewers, like we're used to this kind of thing, right? Like this is not a movie for first time anime watchers. This is for people, fans of the show, who are looking for the next arc. You know, it's kind of a weird viewing experience in that way, but
it is a weird viewing experience in that way because I feel like this show is going, or not, I keep calling it a show. I feel like this movie is going to be weighed a little bit against itself and its own success. And like a big part of like the headlines on this movie are like it beat Spirited Away. It's like Japan's #1 thing, and like you have, you know, I don't know if people are comparing it to Spirited Away, but I'm sure there are, right?
Sure.
And it's just like, it is an amazing movie, but it's
not Spirited Away.
It's not Spirited Away, and it's also it's a movie that's adapting an arc off of a currently running anime. You know, it's like that is canon. And you won't, like, I'm sure you would enjoy this have you not seen Demon Slayer for sure. But like, it is kind of super important that you have. Like, you know, it's kind of like seeing Avengers without, you know, Avengers like is a good movie, but like it's not half as good if you haven't seen what's come before it. But anyway, yeah, there was some weird movie stuff like the boss fight. That was probably really the only critique I had.
Okay.
Or nitpick, I guess. And I felt like, you know, and I won't skip over anything or I won't mention anything else till later, but you could kind of tell, like,
sorry, which boss fight are we talking about?
I'm talking about Enmu. So when he becomes the train, which I did not see coming. Did you?
I had a hunch. Also, Leanna called it. She watched it with me. Has never watched the show.
She's like, he's gonna be the train.
Well, no, she's like, they cut the head off, and you know, Tangero's kind of like putting it together. There's also like a lot of like Tangero talking out loud a little bit, and it was like, who the fuck, dude, who are you talking to? Like, there was points where he was clearly talking to Inosuke, and then there was times where it was just kind of like into the ether and like talking.
He monologues a lot.
It was weird. Like,
and
I don't remember
like
him doing that in the
monologue
show.
a lot.
But he'll say it out loud. I feel like he was talking
really?
out loud at points. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. Maybe it was when I was tired and watching it. But Leanna, you know, she's like, "Oh, where's the head?" And Leanna's like, "Well, it's obviously the front of the train."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, it probably is." Like
yeah,
5 minutes later, and then 5 minutes later, like, "Oh, it's." I'm like, "Well, duh. Like, it's a train. Like, there's a front and there's a back. You know, like, I don't know. It was funny, but no, I didn't completely see it coming. But they were ramping up to that.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, before we go, I want to talk. So, I thought it was so cool how there's callbacks to everyone's dreams later in the episode. When there's Inosuke is like, he's got the team expedition, and they kind of make reference.
That was so funny.
Well, he has so much intuition,
Yeah.
He has good intuition, and it's him and the expedition team looking, and they find the train spider, the train centipede or whatever.
That was so good.
In the cave. And then Inosuke later is like, I was right. Like, it's the train we got to kill. And then, like, in Zenitsu's dream, he has to protect. He's trying to, Nezuko doesn't get hurt. And, he's got to protect her, make sure she's safe. And then he comes to her rescue in the exact same way. It's all their dreams come to life. It just shows how powerful these characters are. And just, yeah. So anyways, I just want to, the importance of all their dreams. I wanted to just quickly touch on those. I thought they were all perfectly tuned to the characters.
I loved the subtle, subconscious, almost Inception-like quality to Tanjiro's dreams, like him yelling at himself in the water.
Yeah.
Unreal animation, by the way.
Yeah.
And, like, Nezuko's box being, like, somewhere in the woods.
Yeah.
Does a double take, but it's gone. And then, like, he, like, talks to himself. He's, like, worried about Nezuko being out in the daylight, but he doesn't exactly know why. That slow build of him, like, it dawning on him. Because they obviously spent more time on him and his dream and his, like, coming to. I loved that. To skip back a little bit and back to the boss fight, what I was going to say about my nitpick was I felt like, and it's weird that this is my one nitpick about the animation, the blobbiness of the of Enmu, like, becoming the train. Like, I get that, that would have been genuinely probably impossible to hand draw.
Yeah.
And there's just, like, so much going on.
I think that's why I can kind of gloss over it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that would be...
It's just crazy.
The manpower would...
Yeah. It's just crazy because you don't... one of the things that Demon Slayer especially is really well known for is, like, their 3D elements and, like, how they, use that for, like, camera work and how they use that for things like weather and...
Like the 3D backdrop with the 2D characters. Kind of
unbelievable. So great. And so when it looks a little... not 100%, it's like it was a little bit I don't know, grating, but also probably because it was such a huge part of the movie. We're not talking like a scene, we're talking like 10, you know what I mean? So if it's even just a touch off for like for how the animation looks, but it's in like 30% of the movie, that's that is substantial. I'm not saying it took me out, but
it was jarring at first for sure. But I found as it went along, it just seemed natural because the speed of it too. Like when it really starts kicking into gear, and a lot of movement.
Yeah, that's
it's
second
hard
half
to, like,
of that fight.
It's hard to focus on it, anyways. So
when it like brings back his
natural.
Head, I was like,
Well, that was, I think, the worst of it was when, and that's the part I'm talking about too. Like, I'm so ecstatic. Let me tell you my plan and da. It's like, come on.
Oh, the monologue. Oh, like the monologue. The bad guy.
The monologue that was a little much, and then the animation, like the 3D CG in that moment was not, it was again very hard to see. But once the train starts transforming across the board, I was like, I see why they've done this.
Another thing on that note is like, if they had to, because they're still a studio, they still, movies generally speaking always have better animation than the running TV shows, but like there's still a budget and they still spent substantial money on this. I used to know, I can't remember now, but I also, how the movie ends and those last action scenes, I was like, they were also saving some money for this.
Yeah.
Is there anything we want to cover before we get to that last act?
Well, I think like the fight itself between are you talking? We should talk about the Two-Face fight with Enmu.
Yeah, I loved. I think my favorite moment in that was Tanjiro's repeated suicides and his near real life suicide.
Oh, in the second phase, then Inosuke
saving
heavy. I was gonna say episode, but heavy Inosuke in this movie. I feel like more so than we've seen in the show. Agreed.
He they had a really strong, if you remember the forest arc in season 1, because Zenitsu just chickens out, right? And he gets he has to do his own thing. But the two of them almost, Tanjiro and Inosuke make it a lot farther together. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of fun duality between them, and I feel like they just kept going in this one, and it was really well done.
Yeah, incredibly. They're the four of them, including Nezuko. They're a really good team, I know. Like I said, the second phase of the fight was really the first part was very by the numbers, kind of throw down with a demon was great to see. And even though like the animation of the when he the self-suicide in the dreams gets to him, goes for the head, awesome, like awesome stuff. But just even though the CG wasn't great with the second phase of the fire, the second form, that is really where they dial up. At least for when it comes to Tanjiro and Inosuke, like they dial the music, the soundtrack was out of control.
The speed of the whole, just all the shots.
Very well, and that's what I'm saying. Like I just didn't notice anymore, and it looked it fluid together, and it made sense. It was really, really good. But
there's some sequences of them both flying through the air, fighting like the blurbs,
the eyes,
the eyes, but the tentacles is what I was saying for. Yeah, like just flying through the air, chopping them all up. They've got all these fun ducking and bobbing and weaving things, and then when the eyes come out, that really vivid blue.
Yeah.
Just the color palette is really accentuated by that. I love that shit.
A very strange nitpick, and I actually can't believe I'm saying this.
Hit me.
But one of my favorite things about the show is whenever they, because they say their moves. They say water breathing, form, whatever. Like that's, you see that and you're like, oh shit, what one is he about to bust out right now? A slight problem I found in this movie is the overuse. It was just, again, I feel like there would have been like half the dialogue in the movie would have been reduced because they wouldn't have been saying this. But like the moves back to back, it was just like water breathing this, form one, It wasn't like, they couldn't, I'm not saying they needed to shorten it down, but it just felt like back to back. It was like a lot of repetition.
That's a fair point.
It kind of, I find it took the power out of like, okay, we're going, oh shit, he's using form 8 or whatever. It's like, it was just like back to back to back. But I guess that's what you do. You have like your Rolodex, you're in a big fight, you need to use everything. But it just,
no, that's
so fair. So many people fighting all in, like between Inosuke and Rengoku, and we didn't really hear anything out of Zenitsu. He had like that bomb, like he rips in his sleep, which love that. Like his lightning abilities are so fucking cool.
Well, he only has the one ability.
Yeah. Well, for now.
Yeah, I wonder if he goes the whole series without learning a second one.
I would be shocked if he did. I think he's due for some little bit of character development.
It was funny. At first I was like, oh, did we get enough Zenitsu? And then I was like, well,
we got enough.
We did, because you don't want to overuse him and you don't want to underuse him, but pair him with Nezuko. She got some really cool moments too. And it's funny because he's only useful when he's asleep, and they found the perfect environment for that. So that worked out too. It was also cool to see, without wasting a ton of time, that Nezuko seems to have come a little bit far. She didn't really have any issues using her demon blood art, which she used for the first time towards the end of season 1, and also just going all out and fighting, in the cars. So she seemed to be completely independent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I loved that was like a standout moment for me, is when Inosuke kind of saves Tanjiro from self-suiciding.
Yeah, that was a good bait and switch on Enmu's part. I thought that was pretty cool. Good villain. Also, too, we haven't really talked about too much of his personality. Very cool. Like the upper, or I guess he'd be a lower rank or whatever. But they give really good flair and character to their villains. Even though they're all kind of demons, each one gets their own independent. It's very similar to the I'm going to ask you again, the Hishari or the Hashiras. They're
almost like one to
yin
one.
And yang. Yeah. It's really cool how they give them such uniqueness, and very good villains in this show. I honestly can't think of a bad villain in the show so far. But yeah, so Enmu, he eats it. Good villain.
You know what
go ahead. Sorry, you go ahead. No, you go.
I was going to say, speaking of which, at the end of season 1, the master guy does tell Tanjiro, go help Rengoku on this mission or whatever. But he also says, if you really want to prove yourself and you really want to climb the ladder and do whatever, then go slay a member of the 12 Kizuki. You know what I mean? This is before they're disassembled by Muzan Kibutsuji, so there's theoretically 10 or 11 at that point. Yeah. And this would have been the last one of the lower 6, and Tanjiro technically gets the kill. So for what that's worth, that's kind of mission accomplished.
Okay, that's the thing. There's a couple of details I was a little fuzzy on about the show. We don't need to get into that. I kind of pieced it together by the end. But like this is what I was gonna say is this is a very violent show. Last thing on Enmu, and we'll move into the second half of the movie, or I guess like the last third. This is obviously a very violent and gory show. You know, like you can't really say it's grounded, but like the characters are grounded, but like it's very heightened fighting and all that. But it's you know, it feels believable. I forgot how truly like has like the horror elements of the show, because there's that kind of like back and forth Enmu and Tangero have at one point where he says, you know, I want you to have dreams first, but I like giving you bad dreams after. Like I like seeing the slaughter, and then it cuts to like the train car of just the massacre, and he's like, I like to see the distorted faces and all that. I was like, fuck, I forgot this show took it there. You know,
yeah.
And I was like, it was a good little reminder.
It's easy to forget, but in the pilot, you know, they have like these really iconic at this point, this really iconic scene of him walking back home into his house, and it's just soaked in blood, and there's just bodies everywhere, and that's in the pilot. You know what I mean? So yeah, they go for it, and they also revisit that dark place, right? When they even just that art style of all the red. They revisit that when he gives Tanjiro's nightmares later in the fight, and his father is calling him useless, and. So yeah, I think like they use that darkness very efficiently in the show. If you go back to that well a little bit too often, then you kind of cheapen it. But like they just like they just sprinkle it in at the right moments. So yeah, shit's dark.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole second fight in the third act of the movie. I'll ask you first. Did you know this was happening? Did you know there was going to be another villain?
All right, a little bit of a hot take here. Why the fuck was he there? That's what the only thing I don't buy is like, unless he was purposely tracking Tangero, or maybe he was, because he had like a lot of, he called Rengoku, like he really wanted Rengoku specifically to become a demon.
Yeah, because Rengoku's fucking dope.
Yeah, again, full circle on Rengoku, like dope as fuck, but like, and at one point he calls him the Chosen One. You know, that I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe we can get into that later. But I was like, why is he here? And it was the clumsiest part of this movie is the transition from the train crash where all 200 people should have died. Just saying.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
because that is a part that they put focus on later. Like technically Rengoku wins because, you know, he saved all those lives. It's like, but did he? Like the train fucking crashed.
And that, like, they even say, like, I know he's like really fast. They kind of like clumsily say he's fast and he saved all his people. I'm not buying that. That's just spooky. I don't like crashes like that in real life or in anime. It's just kind of creepy.
I mean, they did a great job showing him like protecting the 5 cars in the back during the Enmu fight, right?
Yes.
That was all great. But then when the train crashes, they don't show you anything, and they just sort of hint, like, oh, he saved them. Like, they don't even, like, if you're, like, that's just, why even have it crash? Like, maybe just make it derail and, like, come to a slow stop, and, like, they have to do, but, like, why stage a literal train crash where it comes completely off the tracks? It's like, it's on its head, completely, like, caterpillared in a different direction. Like, nah, everybody's fine, it's good. All 200... Couple scraped elbows.
Couple injuries, but everyone's going to live. But that's, you know, and then just...
Anime logic,
I suppose. That's anime. But anyway, so why was he there?
So it's funny. I had a different reaction. So I think what they were going for and how it hit for me was like, you know, this sort of false sense of security, even though it's like the movie's not done yet. Like clearly something else is going to happen.
I really didn't think this was going to happen. I genuinely, I was shocked.
I thought it was like you thought you were safe, but now the real threat has appeared. Oh shit, I thought we were out of the danger. Like,
but there's no stakes to it.
I thought there was, because Tangero had no ability to do anything, and we had just gotten out of like really liking Rengoku, but also kind of being like, well, we didn't get to see a ton of him, but then he's kind of the only one that's not left incapacitated.
I don't disagree with the stakes of what happened, because what I want to say is like once he's there, there ends up being stakes, and that fight is tremendous. Like we're gonna get into all that, but like, why? There's no significance to him being there. It's just he's just there, and it's like, okay, well, let's have a badass throwdown with another badass guy. Like
it's the only
like
out. I think the only out is like if Muzan, Kibutsuji, or the upper ranks considered it was possible or likely that Enmu would fail, because they do say at the end of season 1, Kibutsuji's very vocal in his frustration that the only one to kill Hashira's has been the upper ranks. The lower ranks have been less than useful. And, and even, what's his name? Is it Aza?
Akaza?
Akaza says, he's killed several Hashira at this point. So we know, maybe he was sent there because they were worried about whether or not Enmu would be successful, knowing there was a Hashira present, and maybe this would be a good opportunity to dice one up. And it seemed like they did not know that Tanjiro would also be present. But then Akaza goes for him right away. So maybe they did, and that's why they sent him. I could
see that as maybe just trying to see if a lower one could pull it off. But at least with Enmu, there's a mission. We had this tease from the end of this season 1. We know why we're there. We knew there's going to be a big bad. We knew there's going to be a big fight. But just this guy being there, jumping in at the end of the fight, it just. If we had some dialogue of with Akaza standing over the disintegrating body of Enmu and being you guys are worthless, this is what happens, I'm here to clean up your mess.
That's fair. If they had thrown
I would have
a quick scene being I knew you wouldn't be able to do this, or just something, or even a cutaway, showing Kibutsuji being hey, you should go check this out and make sure he doesn't fuck it up, or anything that would just bridge that gap between him just showing up. There is, it's tricky because there is also, I think, some merit or value in the shock of uh-oh, wait, who's this new guy? But then when you start asking the questions of but why is he there, you kind of lose your sense of disbelief a little bit. So
you start pulling the string or the wool a little bit there, and it starts coming away. But again, I say the second you get past that really in my kind of really bad clumsy introduction, it's it's all good. It's fucking awesome. Him, the discourse between him and him and Rengoku, and also too kind of a weird little anime nitpick is whenever fist fighting characters go toe to toe with people with weapons, they just block them. It's almost like they'll have hands of steel.
Yeah.
They justify the defense of the regeneration. It was realistic, to the world, the rules that this world has presented to us. That was kind of nice to see, because that in ReZero there's a character like that who in the second season goes toe to toe with a couple characters, and they're just throwing down on his hands and fists and all that, and he's just there's no damage to his hands.
Yeah.
It's come on,
I sort of bought it with this guy because you get the vibe that he's hundreds of years old, and specifically in season 1, Tangero has had issues breaking Demon's skin because it's been so hard.
No. I'm saying I love this. I'm saying this is
okay.
This is it done right.
Okay. I thought you said yeah.
No. I'm saying in other shows, I have nitpicks. This is done really well.
It sort of made sense because of the world. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, well, and even in other worlds too, you feel you would take a sword to someone, it would cut through or something, or whatever. Yeah. But Rengoku is doing the damage, and it's healing because he's obviously an upper rank. But
about the healing, I want to say really quick, the healing factor is such a threat in the show, but never to this degree.
No.
You know what I mean? It was so good how they nailed this, every time, because it was such a long, sustained battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every time you'd gain a little bit of ground. We've seen other demons heal in fights in season 1, but it seems to take a bit out of them. They're slow depending on their age, and it seems they can't always do it indefinitely, and it's just sort of a matter of time until Tanjiro wears them down.
Yeah.
This was instant. There was there's no diminishing returns. Recovery is instant. The demon's having a ton of fun. He just doesn't seem to be getting winded, and you just watch Rengoku's slow decline. It was a real fight. It was so good.
Yeah.
The recovery was clutch.
So, and kudos to, is it UFO Table?
Yeah, man.
Congrats
we always say UFO Table. I don't know how other people pronounce it, but other people pronounce it. I've seen on podcasts, and they say it in a way that sounds better than UFO Table. What is it? UFO. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways, this is okay. So look how long it took us to kind of give Gabby a little bit of a. It took like the whole season for us to ease up on Gabby.
And
Like we didn't
Titan, season
Attack
4?
on Titan. Sorry, yeah. In a span of 2 hours, I go from not knowing this character to like his death is like, oh, this is heavy and this is powerful. You know, like total selling of a character in an effective way. Like, you know, the little comedy at the beginning, and you know,
Comedy,
we can't,
some action.
well, also we cannot blow past the scene of like, you know, Tangero stabbed, he's laying on the ground, and just the teaching moment. It was almost like a father and son.
So
It was like
good.
a master and a student of him, like, focus. No, you can do this. And like just the way he was talking, like, you could tell in the tone of the voice actor, the way he was speaking to Tangero, of like, no, like, you can do this, like, do that, you know, like, and like the way he like poked his head. I was like, that was one of the most powerful moments in this movie by far. It was such a small little scene, and it had so much fucking weight. I was blown away by that.
That's a really good pick, because that was a really cool scene. It was cool to see Tanjiro learn and kind of have a mentor. He's had a few mentors in this show.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the themes of the show, is how important that kind of stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. And you know what it kind of reminded me of, both with the introduction of Rengoku, Enmu to an extent, and then Akaza, I think you said his name was?
I think so, yeah.
Is that it's kind of almost similar in a distant way to My Hero Academia, and how they're able to introduce characters and build a rapport with them very quickly, because they're just so efficient at it. And like you just picked that Rengoku scene, like they just sort of hit the notes they need to hit very efficiently throughout the whole show. You know, like you said, comedy, teaching moment, action, everybody thinking how cool he is, and then this just balls to the wall fight.
Yeah.
Like they did everything they needed to do with less, you know, he's on screen way less than an hour.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To make you care about a character. And Akaza as well, I've heard that people love him. I don't know anything.
He's got some good depth. From what we saw, he's got some pretty good depth. For a villain like that,
that was not just
complicated. It opened up the scope of what it is to be a demon, I think. And I think this is a good tease of what is to come for Nezuko. That's all I could think about. The way this guy was talking about, you know, focusing your art, because he makes the reference to, in like 100 or 200 years, you know, you can be the best, you know, you'll be way better than you are, and like, and then he makes a reference later, like in it, I think he gets like one good hit on, I think it's when he more or less blows his eye out. He says like, you know, in like a year or two,
you'll be at your physical peak.
You know, like that wouldn't have hurt you, like that wouldn't have affected you.
Oh,
a hit like that. I think he makes a line like that, and it's just interesting to show like the training and the focus, like they're demons, but they have that weirdly human spirit to them.
Well, they've really focused on what motivates each demon that Tanjiro kills throughout season 1, and then you get a lot more when he goes up against, what the fuck is the guy? You know, the critically acclaimed episode 19, when he goes up against the spider guy, the lower 5.
Yes.
Because you get, you know, several episodes on that guy's motivations and the whole fake family thing, and it's, you know, the whole childhood trauma. You get a lot about that, but it's really impressive how much they gave Akaza in 20-30 minutes maybe.
Yeah, he was like right at the end.
But everything on him was super martial arts focused. Like he even says, you know, as a fellow martial artist, I don't understand why you would do this or why you would do that. It was cool to see. That was like a different tack that we haven't seen. Them trying to convince, you know, one of the Hashira or just a regular Demon Slayer to come over and join them. I was super interested, and I really, really loved that whole thing. There's a specific thing which is also a big time anime-ism. I wonder if you caught it, because it's so Dragon Ball Z. But it's like, as the fight scene kicks off, it's so cool too. Like, it's one of the best shots in the movie, in my opinion.
Oh, you see the flashes of color in the distance?
Yeah, the flashes of color in the distance. And Tanjiro is watching, and Inosuke is watching, and I think one of them says, I can't even follow their movements.
Yeah, I think it's Inosuke, yeah.
It's big time Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I can't jump in. Like, I can't, they're so fast. You know, faster than the human eye. But in Dragon Ball Z, that just keeps happening throughout the whole show.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't go away.
Yeah, that doesn't go away. But that was super cool. And, like, yeah, the effects, like the lighting stuff that they did to show how far ahead they were. Yeah, I don't know what more there is to say on that fight other than its conclusion was spoiled for me. That was the one I told you about.
Oh, it was, eh? That was it?
Yeah, it was thumbnail on YouTube.
Fuck, man.
We have a.
How do some people sleep at night? That's what I got. That's what I'm curious.
I've heard a lot about it from creators, and about how the YouTube algorithm will kind of get you inadvertently. Like, as an example, if you're listening to this podcast, we're pretty much everywhere. You can find our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but we have a specific Part-Time Otaku podcast YouTube channel that we post some of our stuff to. But like, just based off of what we put up and like the tags we use, like the recommended videos are all super anime oriented, right?
Yeah.
It's every anime we talk about. It's Attack on Titan, it's Demon Slayer, it's this, that. So I was there like just uploading like a quick thing, and on the homepage, the thumbnail was, "Oh my god, Rengoku's death." And it's just a thumbnail of his bloody face. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Oh, that's.
And I use that YouTube profile, like once a week to put up some stuff when we record it. So that was pretty good. But now that that's on the table, I love the decision to kill him.
Yeah, I think it needed to happen. Like, they really said it. Like, they piecemealed it a little bit, tidbits here and there throughout the movie. It was not that it was obvious, but it was like, well, this is. They gotta hit the movie on a sad note. That's this show. There's
that is
positivity.
absolutely the show.
It's so I knew. Also, the introduction of Akaza, like, not his actual introduction, but like as you learn about him a little more in the fight, just like the back and forth between the two of them, I was like, they are not fucking killing this guy. Like,
yeah, it was such a strong intro, right?
It was evident that they are setting him up for bigger things.
He's going to be around
in many ways. I was like, yeah, I think new guy Rengoku is fucking going down for the count on this one. But powerful, very effective anime death. They're not always like this, Dave.
They are absolutely not like all this. And it was just so good to see us develop stakes because, like, they have a number of misdirects in here. Like, there's one, like, Hashira has never killed an upper rank. And for a second, like, we've seen how cool
I had to
Red
think
Goku
about that.
is. Yeah.
I had to think about that. I was like, really? But
Yeah.
I guess it's like you said, they've been in that position forever. Like, they don't die.
Yeah. And, it feels for a sec like, oh shit, we might see the first one. Rengoku looks awesome. He looks unbeatable. He's kind of holding his own in the beginning of the fight. His like taking of the high road, in all the verbal sparring they were doing. Yeah. If anybody's going to be the guy, you feel like this is the guy. Right? And that was like the first misdirect. And the second one that like genuinely did kind of get me for a second was you think it's going to end in a draw. You think that Rengoku might be able to last till sunlight. And I was like, this is how we go out. Like, if you're going to, like, this is how he goes out. Great
good
death.
pacing. Good pacing in a fight. Yeah. It wasn't too drawn out. It wasn't like, next week on and we're resuming. You know what I mean?
Goku's still sitting there, give me your energy.
Yeah, no, none of that. None of that shit.
Yeah, you're right. Good pacing. Amazing. I want to say the last 10 minutes, amazing animation. Even just, like, on frames that aren't fights. Like, just, like, as Akaza's seeing the sunlight kind of come over the train, stuff like that. That was all really killer.
I feel like, I can't remember, I think there's a shot where it kind of zooms out. You see Tangero and Inosuke in the distance, and we're kind of seeing it from in front of Rengoku.
It's like Rengoku's POV, and there's depth of field. Like, they blur it.
That was freaking like goosebumps. I was like, whoa.
It's like,
oh yeah, they pulled all the stops out.
Yeah, dude. And like it's just crazy that this show does shit like that. That it sounds like a bad idea. You know what I mean? Like, you see it in anime, and you see it more when it doesn't work. Like, there's one, I think it's when Rengoku uses his last big attempt, and I think it's literally called Rengoku, and it's like the fire dragon. But the aftermath is what got me, because there's this smoke effect, and it's clearly 3D. It's clearly CG, is not hand drawn, and like, just using like CG'd like smoke in an anime to like sort of hide 2D characters. Like, more often than not, that may not look good, but it looks so fucking good. And then like that scene you just mentioned, like the depth of field blurry like POV shot, That's like just sounds like so hard to do. It's like almost like closer to like an amazing video game cinematic.
Yeah.
But it completely worked. And then the motherfucker gets away.
And just, and I don't want to go on it too much. Like, I like the power. It's going to sound so bad. I like the power of, like, just friend love. Like, they're all, like, mourning together, the three of them. And, like, and you have, like, their own flares. You have, like, Tangero, who's, like, truly feeling it. Because, he had, like, another master, or another mentor taken away, another person he was potentially could look up to. You get Zenitsu just kind of being emotional in general and like kind of worried about the situation. Just like the awe of the power. Like you could tell like the fact that Hashira was killed in front of them and he missed the fight and all that. Not that he missed it, but you know what I mean.
Couldn't help.
And then just and then Inosuke just trying to do his best way to bring up his boy. And I was like, fuck man, like friends are good.
Yeah.
I love just good friends in a show. Like
Tanjiro's breakdown was so good because I remember watching it. And he keeps coming back to him, and at one point he says, "I'm so frustrated."
Yeah.
And he's like, and the dialogue, we've talked a lot about dialogue on this show and the importance of it, but he says, like, I just feel like I'm fumbling around in the dark, or I'm fumbling around. How am I ever going to get to his level? Yeah. And even he couldn't do it. No. You know what I mean? Even he couldn't get the job done. And like that, as a viewer, you're like, fuck, man, we still have so far to go, and even if you get there,
very, very curious power imbalance.
Yeah, they have to.
I didn't think we had, because this was because the really cool tool they do is they show also the crow crying was just like, wow, I love that, like chef's kiss. I don't know what it was perfect.
Oh, and the scene of the crow showing people.
And then the crow goes and talks to everyone, and then you get everyone's reactions.
Oh, by the way, just on that note, what would have taken you right out is if they had the crow's comical voice in there, but they, just from a production standpoint, they're like, no. Like, this is an emotional moment. We're not going to do the funny. Like, so they cut that right out, and they only show the grief, the reactions, a little bit of dialogue. Just another good writing choice. Sorry,
but what they did is they cut to one of the Shiras. I don't know the names. They lore dump you right at the fucking end. It was one of the clumsiest thing of season 1. Anyway, we'll get into that another day. But the one character says like, oh, like it got Rengoku. Like, it was kind of like, oh fuck, like he was the guy, So it's like I wonder where the cast is gonna go to get to that. Obviously, it's gonna be Tangero. Like come on, like he's boy.
There's a couple things in here. Quickly, have you seen any season 2 art or trailers, and do you care if I tell you a minor detail of who they will potentially be seeing more of? You can say yes.
No, get in it. Like, I'm not gonna watch trailer stuff, but I'll listen to you talk about
it. The guy who says, "Man, not even Rengoku could kill an upper rank." I don't know which Hashira he is, but I think we're gonna see him in season 2. Like, I think they spend time with him.
Oh, okay.
And that's all. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, see, because he had the most dialogue, so that makes sense. Because there's the other main dude that originally found Tangero. He just has a line of IC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see more of him. I always liked him.
Yeah. They use him very sparingly and very well.
I think for a reason.
They
yeah.
Rengoku does say something about there's always been a flame Hashira and there's always been a water Hashira. Giyu is the water Hashira, by the way. Mm-hmm. At the end there, though, Tangero uses the Hinokami a couple times in this show, or in this movie, and then he uses it, his flame breathing, like, again, when he throws his sword, which he just got back at the end of season 1. Yeah. So he's without a sword again. Wonder how that's gonna go. But maybe he combines the breathing forms, or maybe he learns to use multiple, and maybe that's how he fixes the power gap.
There's another random thing. I don't know if this is just like an anime-ism, like whenever you kind of get like a lore dump, but it was under that. It's when they do the recap of the different breathing styles of the 5 styles, like the fire, water.
Yeah, there's like a little cool anime sequence thing.
Yeah, there's that, and then they kind of like, and then from that, there's other forms,
offshoots like mist and
offshoots. But that's insect. Exactly it. You took it. They specifically make a comment about, and mist is a sub thing of that, of this, and I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Why did they specifically open like that as like a combination of whatever to or whatever it was? And I was like, that's interesting that is the one they chose to like double down on.
I figured it was because like they showed the mist Hashira and the insect Hashira, and it was like, I think you kind of maybe you'll disagree, but in a way you kind of have to like justify the existence of these other Hashira that don't seem to be from the elements.
But
like,
do you need to do that in the moment in the movie?
Yeah, good point.
Like in like a big budget like brand or a stepping stone movie. It stuck out as like interesting. Not
like
as
why
like,
are you pointing to them? Yeah.
it seemed like obvious setup to something or like an Easter egg of some sort or like for the manga readers. But Dave, this movie it kind of go back to like the Rengoku, like the emotional and like just like the fucking masterclass handling of this introduction and like exit of a character.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to the source material. And
Big time.
that's just the power of why this show works. And why these shows we like work is because the source material is just awesome.
Mwah.
Like it's
They,
all in all, good shit. Fucking great movie. I gotta watch it. You and I,
killer movie.
You and I, hopefully, I really hope this thing is still kicking around somewhere in the province in theaters.
Oh man, that was one of the things I was thinking of.
When you and I, when we get our second dose there and we can safely go into a movie theater, I hope we have the opportunity to see this in a movie theater because
That would be killer.
This was designed for that, no doubt in my mind. The sound, the atmosphere of it was begging to be blown away. I would have to wear headphones for sure in the theater for this movie. Absolutely.
The score was really good. We didn't touch a lot on that, but it was very good. They had like some of that weird anime techno stuff going on for Akaza's theme that I'm not usually a fan of, but I didn't.
Do you know that meme going on around? There's that.
No.
There's rap artists and what rap artists are gonna sound like in 2040.
Oh God.
Oh my God, I'm gonna send it to you later. And all I could hear every time there's like that one high pitched note in Akaza's like fight music.
Yeah.
All I can think was that meme, and I was like trying not to laugh. And like this is such an important battle.
If it fits, we'll put it on the Instagram. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
There was one little like full circle moment. I don't know if it counts, but they do this bit at the beginning of the movie where Tanjiro keeps asking Rengoku, "What are you looking at?" Because he just keeps looking off in the distance.
Yeah.
Like on these funny like close-up frames. And then he looks off in the distance for his death because he sees his mom. I don't know if that was like an artsy thing or if that was just like a fun coincidence, but I remember noticing like, oh look, like he's dying looking off in the distance because he sees his mom. We didn't really talk about his subconscious or his dream, but I thought it's more or less covered by the fact that we've talked about how well he was handled. Yeah. Which is to say they did his backstory.
Wasn't too much.
Very efficient.
Wasn't too, yeah.
And like I think the essence of that character is just how good-hearted and not unlike Tanjiro in that way he was, and then it really is suiting that when he dies, his question is gonna be, do you think I did all right? When he asks his mom that, just immediately post-death.
Yeah.
In terms of stuff that leads into season 2, I can only think of two things. One is Tanjiro's without a sword, and 2 is that Rengoku does say you should like go to see my parents. He gives him like post-mortem like communique, and he also says, but I think there's going to be some information for you there.
A little heavy-handed, but whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
It's the transition from a movie into like this is all borderline Uncharted territory, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
For like this something to be as neatly packaged like this, they're allowed to have a couple weird little misses. I think this gives a lot more credence to the fact that Tanjiro might become the new Flame. Like that'll be his Hashira, or that'll be his main.
Very curious.
I have more. Also, too, I thought another anime-ism when I think it's during the Enmu fight, and they make some. I don't know if he makes a reference or someone makes a reference to the upper ranks. And it does like the main villain. I'm blanking on his name, and then it's kind of like silhouette. It's very vestiges of One for All. You can see the silhouettes of like the upper rank demons, and then there's the ones that are clearly more. You can see more of them. And I was like, okay, well, there's our next villains. It's Akaza, and then another female demon we're gonna see.
You did not like that?
No. I say like It's an animism. Like they did that. Like they're
yes,
setting
yes.
up season 2 that way. And I was like, okay. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just you see it in every shonen. Man.
It's funny because they do that with the lower six right before he encounters the one of the lower six that he ends up fighting, and they do the same thing. It's like they show a darkened shot with only a couple of them and slightly better focus. So yeah, it sounds like we'll run into Akaza again, maybe sooner than later. I would also not be surprised if we do a time skip. I'd like not a major one, but remember the show isn't like a stranger to that. They skipped 2 years in the first like 5 to 10 episodes of the show.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, training. They skipped like 2 years. So there's that, and then season 2. Our guess is fall winter of this year though. So
it's this year
around the corner.
They have said this year for sure.
And a video game if that's your fancy.
Yeah, I heard something too. It kind of goes against everything the Hashira stand for. How a Hashira will never fight. A Demon Slayer will never fight one another, and it's like it's a 1v1 fighting game, starring all the fighters. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
They're never supposed to cross swords.
Yeah, so it's I wonder if there's gonna be villains in it. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think I saw like as like an update after the movie came out, they're like giving Tangero's character like fire moves.
Oh,
or something. I don't know. I'm very out of the know as far as video games stuff goes. But I think that probably wraps it, unless you've got anything else.
I just want to say, do you know what got a huge laugh in our house last night? Just Rengoku's references to the three of them. He calls I can't remember what he calls Tangero, but he gives him like a nickname. It's Big Boarhead and then Yellow Boy. Yellow Boy got a huge laugh the 2 times.
Yellow Boy. It's because it's in his death speech too, right? Like Yellow Boy. And they just cut to him like just bothering Nezuko. Yeah, that was pretty good.
No, he's trying to get her in the crate.
Oh yes, he's trying to get her in the crate. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's so funny.
That
I don't know. It's just
last moment.
Yellow Boy.
Favorite
moment, Yellow Boy. Yeah. No, honestly, Dave, as a package, I think this was just a really nice. The wait was worth it. Actually,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is I cannot believe that the movie pretty much delivered the goods, despite like having a spoiler, despite like having to wait at 6 months longer than the rest of the world. Like
feels like
I think it is. It's 6 actual months longer than the rest of the world with the spoilers and like streams and shit like that being out there.
It's fucking. It ain't easy dodging spoilers. And
for
the most part, we gotta.
And also just watching it roll over the earth box offices and like breaking records, like all of that builds the hype, yes, which is good, but it also like builds expectations, right? It's like, what are we going to watch here? But so I think the fact that we came out of it and that we're both super happy and we're more excited than ever to see season 2, and we're probably more excited than ever to see it in theaters if that's possible, is a very good thing. Big ups to Demon Slayer Mugen Train. It was super fun to watch, and I'm super glad we got to talk about it on the podcast, considering this is one of the shows that inspired the whole podcast.
Yeah, this is fun. It's not often you get like a one-off like this, like specifically in anime.
Yeah,
it's usually like a season or like maybe like an OVA potentially for a show we watch, but these aren't going to come around too often. So it's a treat, real treat.
I think we can wrap it up there.
I think so.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time listening, we're currently also covering My Hero Academia Season 5, and then we have a post-show which comes out a couple days later in the week where we cover pretty much everything else that we're watching and just like general entertainment, anime-related news. So check that out. If you're listening to this, you can find it in the same spot. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all the social media things on the relevant social media platforms. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.